Okay, I think we're safe. I'm reporting this time from my underground bunker in an undisclosed location. Heat's been coming on me for a little bit, and so I'm laying low, and we're going to report from a low status today. Now, I don't have a fancy mic this time. All I've got is this, and we're going to make do. So, my source has been telling me to check out this article here. An interview took place by former Treasury official who is warning of complete economic implosion if the US dollar loses global reserve currency status. Now, this is a follow up to my short video the other day where I talked about how nobody wants to be in second place. And what we're talking about here is two things basically. We're talking about second place as the world's number one economy, which the US still has control of. We are still number one, but China is number two, and they're catching up quick. Now, I don't know if China's catching up quick or the US is just falling and it's going like this, okay? And what we need to do is we need to be going like this because China is going to keep going and we've got to stay up there. We can't let it happen. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to break down this article a little bit, all right? Now, the second thing that I was talking, okay, number one is the number one economy in the world, right? And the other is maintaining the status of the world's reserve currency, the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. And if the US loses that status, all kinds of catastrophic things will happen, not only in the US economy, the world economy. Okay, the world economy is connected to the US economy, believe it or not. All right, and that's what's going on, and that's what we want to talk about today. Now, it's Monica Crowley, all right, former Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs for the US Department of the Treasury. Okay, now what she is saying is that it's really hard to overstate exactly how catastrophic the abandonment of the US dollar would be as the world's global reserve currency. Okay, and so she went on to explain that since the end of World War II, the dollar has been considered a safe haven. Initially, it was backed by gold, but after Tricky Dick, President Nixon took the U.S. off the gold standard, that was in 1971, there has been no hard asset backing the dollar for the last 50 years. Now, get that into your brain. The dollar used to be backed by gold since 1971. It's been backed by the good faith of the United States government, but also its military, okay? The US has the number one military in the world, the most powerful military that's ever existed. The US spends like $700 plus billion a year on its military. The number two, China, about 250 billion, according to certain sources, okay? Now, so for the last 50 years, nothing's been backing it basically except the US military. So the strength and economic power of the U.S. Now, this former Treasury official says the fact that oil has always been traded in dollars. Okay, now if that were to end, that would mean the end of the U.S. dollar. So what does it mean to be the world's reserve currency? It means basically that most of the world is trading oil in U.S. dollars, and I said most of the world, and that's changing rapidly, way too rapidly. Okay. Footsteps above. Could be the heat coming. We got to make this quick. Okay. Now, if that were to end, that would mean the end of the US dollar. Catastrophic. Okay. Now, she goes on to say, okay, now emphasizing the US dollar having the world's reserve currency status has been a real privilege, and it has. We've abused the privilege by wholly reckless monetary and fiscal policy for so many years, certainly over the last couple of years, which has really devalued the dollar. We are printing trillions of dollars. During the pandemic, we printed trillions of dollars. Everybody here in the US got a check, multiple checks, okay? Now, that's causing inflation. Now, remember, inflation isn't the raising of prices. That's a result of inflation. Inflation is increasing the money supply. So the money supply is increasing everywhere around the world, especially the US dollar, okay? Crowley continues, on top of that, now, you do have a perfect storm of Biden's weakness. Really? His war on American domestic energy production. Now, remember, we were pretty close, if not all the way there, to energy independence, okay, with the previous administration. Now, Biden is taking us off of that. Just like Tricky Dick Nixon took us off the gold standard, Biden is taking us away from and taking us off of energy independence, which means we are producing all of the oil, all of the energy that we need and we are not having to import it from other countries. We're not beholden to other countries for it. Unfortunately, that's not happening now. Okay. Now, his war on American domestic energy production, the Ukraine war as well. Now, there's another thing, okay? Printing all of this money, and we're sending a ton of it over to the Ukraine, which I believe, and my source is confirming, that's all gonna, a lot of that's coming back. A lot of those billions of dollars are coming back, and Ukraine is buying up weapons, okay? We're basically giving them money so that they can then buy weapons from US manufacturers and other things to fund this war, okay? Because of all of these things, we've got American enemies led by China forming a new economic bloc. And what is that economic bloc? That's the BRICS organization, right? Which stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And they are also inviting other countries in as we speak, forming a new economic coalition, I believe, to bring down the US dollar, to cut down the US from #1 economy in the world to second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever it may be. Okay. I believe that's what they want to do. Do they realize that that's going to cause a global economic catastrophe? I believe so, but I think they're ready to weather that storm. Okay. Now, this official goes on to say all it would take at this point is for Saudi Arabia, who has indicated that they are open to this, okay, and they basically saying, you know what, we are going to be open to considering other currencies to trade oil in. Oh my gosh, okay, you have Saudi Arabia that's open to that, and I have read, and my source is telling me that they're already making deals like this with China, okay? And if that were to happen, that would be a complete implosion of the global economic system, but certainly the American economic system. And if that were to happen, you'd be looking at sky-high inflation just raging. Weimar Republic kind of inflation. Weimar Republic was the government and economic system that was in place in Germany before World War I, and they went through sky-high inflation and things imploded and blah, blah, blah. Okay, and if you think that inflation is bad right now, just wait. But more importantly, we would lose our economic dominance and we would lose our superpower status. Now, I do believe, and my source confirms, that because our military is so strong, all right, we've got a big stick to wave out there in the world, and not a lot of countries really want to mess with that, okay? Not China, not Russia. They might talk the talk, but when it comes time to walk the walk, now who knows, maybe China's going to invade Taiwan. That's a whole new set of problems that we don't want to have to deal with. China may want to test that out because of what Russia's doing in the Ukraine. Ukraine might have just been a test, and you got China and Russia in bed together talking about who knows what. But we've got to stay vigilant. We've got to be on top of things. We got to make sure that we're staying out of debt. We're making some money where we can. We're buying up gold and silver and other assets that aren't tied to the U.S. dollar. We might need to be able to use those to trade, to make weapons with. Who knows? You might have people making arrowheads out of their gold and silver before we know it, but we don't know exactly. So we just got to stay on top of these kinds of things, and hopefully you've got me and other people out there digging in to report this kind of stuff to you. And thank goodness I have my source. You've got your sources, and hopefully, again, that I'm hoping I'm one of those. All right. Now, I've been hearing footsteps. I think we might think the heat's coming on to us, so gotta go.